What an evening. It's a very warm welcome to you all. And it is a pleasure to have you to celebrate a special occasion in honor of a man who has done a wonderful job for South Africa. Joe Pamensky. He is not only a wonderful family man, he knows the country, South Africa. He's a wonderful man to the country as well. He is a sports guru. He knows his sport inside out. He's a unique businessman. I know, Joe, to be the successful man you are, that had to go with lots of love. Love, yes, I say love. Care and prayer. You know, the prayer takes me to a batsman who was deeply religious. Was told whenever he got there to open the innings, just the beginning of the innings, the bowler would have marked his run-up and he would take his guard from the umpire. After taking the guard, he goes away. The bowler is itching to have a go at him, but he goes away and he bows his head in prayer. Lord, I thank you for the runs that I'm about to score. Joe Pamensky is a man who's well known in South Africa, even the worldwide. So it is my honor and privilege to introduce to you Joe Pamensky.
For once in my life,
The President of Gauteng Cricket, Honorary Life President, Honorary Life Member of the United Cricket Board of South Africa, Mr. Joe Pamensky, to us who love him so dearly and passionately, Papa Joe, honorary dignitaries, dignified guests, ladies and gentlemen. As chairperson of the Gauteng Cricket Board, I enjoy many privileges and many duties, but I can think of no privilege which I can discharge with greater delight than the honor of welcoming you to this auspicious occasion to celebrate the 50th anniversary of sound and dedicated administration by my mentor, Mr. Joe Pamensky. 50 not out. It has been a triumphant half-century of graceful but forceful forensic play, which has delighted those privileged to bask in the glory of an inspired innings against sustained periods of hostile bowling in boardrooms, cunning spin in the development of the Wanderers Stadium, and skillful googlies in corrective corporate governance, very often in conditions of administrative adversity, corroding and unleveling playing terrains. Some of us cannot avoid sharing with Mr. Pamensky some moist eyes of joy and small lumps in the throat, as he raises his bat modestly and doffs his cap ever so tantalizingly to acknowledge our admiration before he takes his stance again to continue this glorious innings of rare beauty and power, which so many of us need to enjoy for so much longer, to retain the romance of our dreams and to sustain our own energies. In that exhilarating but demanding pursuit of a province that boasts the best development programs, the best facilities, and world-class resources. During his quite remarkably versatile and long career, Mr. Joe Pamensky has acquired and wielded with rare skill and effect a formidable array of weapons, vital to the arsenal of a complete cricket administrator. He has sparkled with an energy and drive, with an instinct that has cultivated in many of us our present qualities of leadership. During our board meetings, he has the effect and penetration that has an unpretentious scholarship and learning. His arguments are bathed with eloquence and persuasion. However, his unfailing sense of equity and fairness resounds in all of our discussions. Such a long, intensive, successful career involving so much interaction with human conflict and competition in crucial areas of cricket in our country perhaps made it inevitable that he should come with time to develop as one of the most impressive administrators that we have known in our beloved country. Mr. Pamensky has developed so attractive a personality as a man with a warmth which radiates unfailingly, a charisma which conquers seductively, a sense of humor which sparkles even in adversity, a lively face which expresses joy with abandon, graced by a smile which intrigues, eyes which dance and sparkle, and a chuckle which is deep and rich. Levels of intellectual and emotional energy which pulsate unceasingly to release waves of moral electricity, and a physical vitality which often leaves many of us during the late evenings dealing with intricate board matters, panting from exhaustion. A formidable human being and a charismatic personality make a potent combination. But even that can be transitory. The really magnificent and unfinished symphony which is played through Mr. Joe Pamensky is something infinitely deeper and imperishable. It comes from the rich mystery of a noble and sensitive soul, driven by the integrity of its own condition, magnetically drawing Mr. Joe Pamensky to a caring concern for the condition of other human beings, propelling him to volunteer for the transformation of our cricket that will erase the long suffering of many victims of a brutal system. A vigorous and ethical administration of cricket is essential to the pursuit of our dreams. It is, in a very fundamental sense, the engine room of justice, with its capacity to afford to those gripped by conflict the opportunity of resolving such conflict through mature and rational decisions, affording opportunity to all of our peoples. Mr. Joe Pamensky's ability to articulate fearlessly the legitimate claims of the disadvantaged has added and continues to add dignity to the lives of many persons within our jurisdiction. It is crucial for our country that in the administration of cricket, we should succeed in the realization of the rich potential inherent in our community. Our success depends in doing so. The efforts of Mr. Joe Pamensky has brought about not only fulfillment and meaning to new generations of young men and women attracted by the fascination of the game of cricket, but it has also assisted in accelerating the process of healing the deep wounds inflicted by the pain and shame of our past. The standards and disciplines that he has instilled are largely instrumental in having accelerated the crucial process of effective administration of cricket in our province. The game of cricket can usher momentous opportunities for all of us. For us as administrators, it is a time for the rediscovery of the potential greatness that lies in our province. Mr. Pamensky has set the foundation for cohesion, strong leadership, and a faith which is optimistic, coupled with a temper which is positive. At Gauteng Cricket Board, we make neither time for dissipation and fragmentation, nor any time for despair, pessimism, or retreat. This is an exciting and conquerable challenge for both cricketers and administrators in Gauteng, facilitated by an outstanding role model like Mr. Joe Pamensky, whom we salute on this auspicious occasion. As a fearless administrator who has brought luster to cricket within our national domain, a warm, caring, compassionate, and lovable man, and above all, as a noble and sensitive soul who has grown immeasurably taller in the very act of giving of himself. He makes me proud to be a member of that unique but unpredictable species which is humanity, as it mysteriously propels its way in the timeless infinity of the cosmos in search of a meaning and fulfillment, perhaps inherently elusive in the rich but exciting and creatively mutative in pursuit. Mazel tov, Mr. Pamensky. Just keep batting. We don't want the magic to stop. Thank you.
When I arrived here this evening, I was asked two questions. The first, no doubt, in my capacity as chairman of the United Cricket Board Disciplinary Committee, and in that capacity I've tried many players for having brought the game into disrepute. This is the question I was asked, to which I formed no opinion. Is an inability to count bringing the game into disrepute? The second question I was asked, is this evening about retirement? Is Joe going to retire? That I was able to answer. My answer was never. Like me, Joe is a workaholic, also like some of our colleagues in this room. We believe that leisure corrupts, and absolute leisure corrupts absolutely. So Joe is nowhere near retirement. And I think Joe is like George Burns. When George Burns turned 70, someone asked him, "Are you going to retire, Mr. Burns?" He said, "Certainly not, I still get pimples." The other thing, you hear Joe laughing, but you'll see he's got very little hair on his head. And maybe that's why they thought you're going to retire, Joe, but there's compensation getting to your age and not having your hair in your head. You do grow it out of your nose and your ears. Well, Joe was born in 1930, the year after the market crash of 1929, and so entered the era of the Depression. And many banks collapsed in the 30s. Some 1,300 banks, in fact, worldwide collapsed. There's the wonderful story of the very wealthy Texan who wrote a check in 1930, and his bank returned the check unpaid with the endorsement, "Insufficient funds, not you, us." So perhaps it was appropriate that Joe, born into that era, decided to become a numbers man. And in 1953, the year that Queen Elizabeth was crowned, Joe became a chartered accountant. And perhaps fittingly, Joe, you too, like she, are celebrating 50 years certain of professional service. For 22 years, Joe was with the Schlesinger organization, leaving them in 1975. When the Portuguese colonialists left Mozambique, Joe used to love going to Mozambique, decided to leave Schlesinger. I don't think there was any association, Joe, but anyway. Joe also served a maximum 6 years as member of the councils of the Transvaal Society of Chartered Accountants and the South African Institute of Chartered Accountants. In 1984, when Bishop Tutu was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, Joe too was awarded a prize as South African Chartered Accountant of the Year. Joe has held many directorships. He holds a directorship currently of Bidvest, ABSA, SA Eagle, and a number of public and private companies. He started an international financial advisory service, which he still runs to this day. He received in 1987 the Order for Meritorious Service Class 1 Gold, bestowed by the State President for people who have rendered exceptional meritorious service to their country. In 1989, he was a nominee for the Marketing Man of the Year. I, at the time, was associated with the Marketing Institute, but I had nothing to do with that nomination, Joe. But I've been asked to talk tonight about Joe the businessman. Ali Bacha will follow me to talk about Joe, the man involved in cricket. Joe and I have sat on company boards together, both public and private. We've sat on cricket boards together. Many years we sat together on the Transvaal Cricket Board, as it then was. And we've sat on cricket committees, most recently the United Cricket Board Remuneration Committee. So when I speak of Joe and his conduct, I speak with personal knowledge. Business is about risk and reward, as you all know. Mistakes are made. I have corporate scars from my corporate mistakes, so does Joe. But I want to allude to one facet of Joe that is immutable and unchangeable. And that's my tribute to him tonight. Tribute originally was and meant a little piece of ore that used to be given to a miner instead of paying him cash. Today, the meaning of tribute is a statement in respect or admiration of some person. My statement to you, Joe, is that throughout my association with you, you've approached every matter with absolute intellectual honesty and dedication. You work late hours, preparing matters in the best interests of the principal for whom you act, most times without remuneration. Whatever the measurement for excellence is, Joe, you are an excellent fellow. It's been a privilege to work with you. You've brought credit everywhere that you've played a part in the business world in South Africa. Thank you, Joe, for sharing that intellectual honesty with me and with everyone else in this room. Joe Pamensky.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome on stage Dr. Ali Bacha, former Springbok captain and managing director of the ICC 2003 Cricket World Cup Organizing Committee.
Joe, Pam, ladies and gentlemen, I think this enormous gathering here epitomizes the respect, admiration that people in South African cricket and international cricket have for Joe Pamensky. We have present here tonight, and I've seen a few of our illustrious international guests, Mr. Raj Singh. He was formerly the president of the Board of Control for Cricket in India. Mr. S.K. Nair, the incumbent CEO of Indian Cricket. Mr. Michael Sandland, I saw him just shortly, former board member of New Zealand Cricket. The legendary Clive Lloyd, and Malcolm Speed, the CEO of the ICC. And I think their presence here, as I said, really indicates the enormous respect with which Joe Pamensky is held in world cricket. I would like to single out the CEO, Malcolm Speed, here tonight. Administering cricket in today's times is not easy. It's not easy in South Africa. It's not easy internationally. It hasn't been easy internationally since April of the year 2000. But let me say to you, Malcolm, I don't know where you're sitting, that in our opinion, South Africa, you are the right man at the right time to head world cricket. There are difficulties in world cricket, and we would like to commend you for your firmness in keeping world cricket together without sacrificing the fundamental principles of cricket and the goals and ambitions which we all cherish so very highly. We would also like to say to our international visitors that we in South Africa deem it a privilege and honor to have been asked to host this 8th ICC Cricket World Cup. We hope you enjoy yourselves, and we hope that you leave this country with very fond memories of South Africa. I've known Joe for over 40 years, and it's an extraordinarily long time. The 60s, when I was playing some cricket at the Wanderers Stadium, and Joe was then the treasurer of Transvaal Cricket. And I think, Joe, since 1971 till now, in different roles, we've been fellow cricket administrators. So that's over 40 years, and that is an extraordinarily long association between Joe Pamensky and myself in South African cricket. Let me say, and I mean this man sincerely, Joe Pamensky is a good man, he's an honest man, he's got good values, and he's a man of integrity. And to myself and to my family, he's been a wonderful, wonderful friend over many, many decades. And Joe, please accept this most sincerely, that we mean this. I would also record, and I mean this once again most sincerely, that Joe is the best all-round cricket administrator that I have encountered. He has always been a man for all seasons. He understands marketing cricket, communication in cricket, public relations in cricket, obviously finance he understands, constitution he knows about. And he also belies the notion that you can't be a top-class administrator unless you've played international cricket. What Joe has done down the years, and he's developed a good chain of international friends like Richie Benner and many others like that. And in his association with these people, he's absorbed and imbibed their knowledge and their expertise, so that ultimately, even on a cricketing sense, he could have a very sound and constructive discussion with the top cricket administrators in the world. As Mervyn said to you, he's meticulous to the point where, in fact, he can become a nightmare for any CEO in world cricket. I say this because we've been to many, many meetings where before the meeting starts, you go through the minutes of the previous meeting, and unless those minutes are spot on, and absolutely spot on, that the commas in the right place and the T's in the right place, that meeting will not proceed. And by and large, it will take about 45 minutes before the new agenda is proceeded with the support of Joe Pamensky. He has a wonderful attribute of calmness under pressure. And I think that's such a key point, particularly in the difficulties that we've had in South African cricket, in world cricket, negotiating through difficult circumstances. And what he's taught me always is to be calm under pressure. And he epitomized that on so many occasions during the many decades of which he's given so many wonderful years to cricket administration in this country. I would suggest that without him leaving this country, there's never been occasion once since 1955 when there's either been a test match or a provincial match played in Johannesburg at the Wanderers Stadium that he would have missed a day's play. And that indicates to you the enormous commitment, passion, wonderful support that Joe Pamensky has always given to cricket in Johannesburg and in South Africa. He is, as I said, a man for all seasons. Joe, you've played a very, very long innings and you've played it superbly. On behalf of everybody in Gauteng cricket, in South African cricket, and world cricket, we commend you for an outstanding innings, an innings whereby you've really given your heart, your soul, and your commitment to the great game of cricket. We commend you and we thank you for your invaluable contribution to this wonderful game of cricket.
Manenekazi nani manene molweni kwakhona. Indoda yamadoda lesihlangene ngayo namhlanje apha. Ngenxa yeqaqa elaqabela eQawukeni laziqikaqika kuqaqaqa kuba laliqaqadekile. Don't worry, we're still in Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Joe Pamensky has been involved in cricket for 50 years, as we see, or as we know as well. And I happened to work with him for some time during tough times. This is a man who believed that he could fly. And he is flying. You know, that takes me to an eaglet. There was a farmer who enjoyed watching two eagles flying over his farm. Now, after some time, they disappeared. He was worried because he loved the nature. He had love, he enjoyed it. They disappeared. He went on to investigate what had happened. But he only saw a deserted nest with one egg in it. Now, he said, I'm going to take this egg. He had a fowl run at his home. He put it there, it hatched. He got an eaglet. Now, this eaglet was among chickens. It saw the birds flying up there. Then he said, I wish I could do that. So he loved to watch the birds flying there. But the chicken said, no, wait a bit. You don't belong there, you belong here. You're not getting there. Now, when the chickens had told the eaglet that, the mother joined as well. Said, look, if you try that, you will break your neck. You know, putting fear into the little creature. And the father rooster also joined. Said, if you manage to fly out, you will starve outside. You won't have food. Then he said, yeah, I cannot go out there. I'm not going. I don't want to die. But it had to die because it went back to the fowl run. There he was miserable, lonely. One day the farmer went out to the fowl run looking for this little eaglet. It was not in the fowl run. What has happened to this little creature? It was dark in the fowl run. He put the light on. He saw a heap of black feathers in the corner there. He went in, picked it up. It was dead. The poor creature didn't realize its dream because fear was put into it. Joe Pamensky didn't get those. Those were not for him. You know, I've got another one which I think suits Joe Pamensky very well. This eaglet, I said, no, maybe I'll mention this one in passing. But there's one that really makes a man. You know, donkeys. We all know donkeys. They're slow movers. But they will get where they want to go. Slowly. The donkeys met a lion cub out in the veld. They became friends. You just cannot believe that. You can't see a donkey being a friend with a lion. But it happened. Now it learned all the habits of the donkeys. It started braying like a donkey. Now after some time, a big lion came. He couldn't believe what he saw. A lion moving along with its food. Then he said to the young one, look, we are not friends with this. We eat these things. We eat them. How can you be a friend with them? But this little one said, no. I'm not a lion, I'm a donkey. I'm not a lion, I'm a donkey. So this big one tried to convince the young one that you are not a donkey, you're a lion. He took him to the river. He said, look there. Can you see me? Yes, I can see you. Look there. Come closer. Look at yourself. Can you see yourself? Are you not the same as me? No, I'm not. I'm not the same as you. I'm a donkey. But after some time, the young cub was convinced that it was a lion. This lion started roaring. This big lion started roaring. Bah! Come on, try it. And he tried. Bah! Then you are a lion. You eat the donkey. You don't play with donkeys. We've got to make lions in this country of ours. We've got to make lions to devour the donkeys. We all know what has happened during the World Cup. Ladies and gentlemen, Joe was recently honored by being appointed as the South African patron of the internationally recognized Breadman Walk to Glory program that is committed to serve charitable interests worldwide. Joe Pamensky is not to be outdone. it is also his intention that outside the field of sport, he has served for 2 years from 1980 as chairman of the fundraising committee for the Johannesburg Child Welfare Society. He is presently the honorary vice president of the Welfare Society. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a man with a warm heart. It is Joe's intention to establish a Joe Pamensky Foundation for needy cricketers. First, it was written here, sportsmen. Somebody said, no, we're dealing with cricketers. So it is for cricketers only. Those cricketers are from every corner of South Africa, of all races. Shouldn't be talking about races anyway, you just talk South Africans these days. Then I'm told the Gauteng Cricket Board will also contribute there. How much? They didn't tell me. I wanted to know. They didn't tell me. It must be a huge sum. They didn't tell me what they are going to contribute. So there's the first contributor towards this foundation. We're going to need more. In so doing, Joe Pamensky is extending his service, which he has already bestowed on South African sport, far beyond the 50 years which we honor him for tonight. This foundation will carry on. His name will never disappear from the history of South Africa. His intention, ladies and gentlemen, is going to need more men of his caliber. After what has happened, we know we need to get together. This is a huge job. It's not for one person. Every South African will have to endeavor to make a contribution for us to succeed in future. Joe is 50 years, no doubt it has been mentioned. As we know, cricket, if you open the innings, the others start losing their wickets while you are staying there. Now, in the end, you'll have to leave the field as well because you've got no partners. The appeal would be for Joe Pamensky to have partners as long as he is carrying on with his innings. Joe, may the good Lord bless and keep you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Martin Jonas. Some of you may recognize me from the movies, because I go to the movies a lot. Like you, I grew up in the old South Africa. I went to school at the same time as you, 7:30 in the morning in summer. And I saw this country change. I remember the first time I heard Nkosi Sikelele, our new national anthem. I thought, hang on, I know that tune. I thought, climbing up the spout, it's the spider climbing. Do you remember what F.W. de Klerk said when Madiba was released? I'm going to use the lectern here because that makes me look like a politician, doesn't it? You know what he was thinking, though. But what he said was, it is not because of pressure from other countries. We are doing this in the best interest of this country. And that is why we have decided to give South Africa the opportunity it hasn't had for 30 years. To have a president with hair. Madiba took over. Now, the only time I do an impression of Madiba today is when someone tries to hijack me. Yeah, when they stick the gun through the window, they say, never again. Will one be oppressed by another? And he buggers off. You can try it if you want. I promise you it works. Now, out of the big three, as they were known, there's one guy left in the running, Mangosuthu Buthelezi. And they're talking about legalizing marijuana in this country. I don't know if that's a good idea or a bad idea. But I think the moment they legalize it, the first packet of 20s should have a picture of Mangosuthu Buthelezi on the front. And on the side of the packet it'll say, each Buthelezi filter is guaranteed to get you totally stoned as per government agreed method. You've seen the man. I love his interviews. He grew up on Durban poison.
What could affect? The last time. No, as in, what do you call? Ulundi. Can you just say that we don't affect definitely moving towards, what do you call? Peace. In KwaZulu-Natal. Sorry, what was the question?
Here we are, the new South Africa. I was watching the news about a year ago now, and news came on and the guy went, Kajiko khotona le mehleng mo ditabeng. Taliban le Osama bin Laden ba pala sesole sa America. Ke tsone ditaba go tswa Afghanistan. And I thought, I know what he's talking about. Truly African, I feel that I am. This was taught to me by some Tswana people, and I still do it. I changed it a bit. It's called my dodo impression. This is my impression of a dodo. Prove me wrong. Five medical practitioners go duck hunting. This is to warn you about surgeons. One is a GP, the second is a specialist, the third is a psychologist from Cape Town, obviously. The fourth is a surgeon, and the fifth is a pathologist called Quincy, as it happens. Some of you remember that. Remember, we used to have one TV channel all those years ago. I still remember that. I'm slightly older than television, ladies and gentlemen. Eventually, we got a second TV channel, and as a kid, I got to know Spider-Man as a Rabubi. Rabubi Udirang. Anyway, back at the script. So these medical practitioners, they go duck hunting, and the first duck flies up, and the GP aims. And just before he pulls the trigger, he says, hang on. I think it's a duck. I just want to get a second opinion. So the duck gets away. Second duck flies up. Specialist aims. Just before he pulls the trigger, he says, okay, look, I read somewhere that there are things that look like ducks that aren't ducks. Duck gets away. Third duck flies up. Psychologist from Cape Town goes, okay, look, I know it's a duck. And you know it's a duck. But does it know it's a duck? Fourth duck flies up. Surgeon takes one look. He goes, shoots it out the sky. He sends Quincy to go and see if it was a duck. Man goes to the doctor. Anyway. doctor says, I've got bad news for you. You've got 6 months to live. He says, what am I going to do, doc? He says, marry a rich Jewish girl, go and live in them Schlanger rocks. He says, how will that well help? He says, it'll feel like a lifetime. I had to put one of those in, you know, for tonight. Was it okay? I got away with that one, didn't I? Yes, I got away. You know, they say laughter is the best medicine, unless you're a diabetic, because then insulin is the best medicine. But there is a way you can make yourself laugh at any time. I'll show you how. This is it. First thing in the morning, go to the bathroom mirror and do this for yourself. They say fat babies can't smile. But I'll show them. I promise you'll laugh at yourself. Now, I'm actually a bit of a Dutchman as well. I actually spotted some people here tonight. One of them, one of the greatest chartered accountants I had the privilege of knowing at university. Must say, the only useful thing I learned at university was that cum laude was something blondes did. And I never became an accountant. In fact, I still remember the father of accountancy, Frete Luca Bacchioli. He was an Italian. He invented a double entry system. That always sounded a bit sexual for me, you know what I mean? But okay, that's the accountants laughing at that one. But then I went off, and strangely enough, Bidvest apparently is the holding company of Steiner Services. And I worked for Steiner Services. And I discovered tonight that Bidvest was involved here. Brian Joffe and apparently Joe Pamensky is one of the directors. And I must say, at Steiner, as a salesman, I learned how to sell. The first thing they said was, under-promise, over-perform. Okay, but I was taught by an Indian. Okay, that was just the rules. What he actually taught me eventually was never take no for an answer. And I can actually demonstrate how well I was taught with one of the ladies here. Is there a sporting lady, maybe that young lady over there? Can I come over and demonstrate suggestive sales? Here we go. For comedy purposes. Sport. No, we're not talking about sport. We're talking about sales. I was going to do jokes about the South African cricket team, but they beat me to it. No, I was supporting. I had the flag up and everything, and I thought, wow, that's life. So for comedy purposes, I'll assume the personality. I'll even talk like that if you want me to. I mean, what is your name, ma'am?
It's Tracy.
Tracy, okay, let's say I'm a salesman. For comedy purposes, please don't let him get upset because he might be a black belt. Every time I say something, you say, yes you are, or no you're not. You got a 50-50 chance. Well, 49.99, 49.99 chance. Tracy, sorry, Tracy. Yes you are, no you're not. After the show, I'm going to take you home with me.
I don't think you are.
Yes, I am. Yes, you are. No, you're not. Yeah. Then I'm going to get you really drunk.
You are not.
Yes, I am. Then I'm going to make passionate love to you.
Affirmative to the last answer.
That was going to be so good though, but thanks for playing. 50 raaitjies vir daai my juffrou wat so lekker saam speel. Kyk net hoe mooi glimlag sy vir my daar. You saw. Okay, I won't try. Let me go back on stage where I belong. Yes, give Tracy a round of applause, please. That's normally a lot funnier. Thanks, Tracy. So you've probably figured out I'm a bit of a comedian as well. I'm also a bit of a Dutchman. Lived in Boksburg for a couple of years, and then I realized my jokes were so bad I had to move. and and moved all over the place. But I want to tell you a bit about Boksburg, or at least the Dutchman. Let's go back to the original Dutchman. Sopsien sê die meneer daar so, ja. 1652, the original Dutchman arrives in South Africa. Jan van Riebeeck and his canoes. Oh, hier's iemand van Springs. Baie welkom. They arrive in Cape Town on 3 ships. So they were pissed by the time they got there. And behind these ships, they're trailing these little boats made by a guy called Venter. So they anchor the ships, they row to shore, and they encounter the first human being. If you look on the back of most coins now, you'll see the coat of arms and a person standing on either side of the coat of arms. This person was a Khoisan person called Harry die strand op my broer. Hy het altyd fyn bos met hom, né? So Jan, real Dutchman, says to him, he says, "Goeiedag. Wij zijn gekomen om jullie hier op te volgen." Wow, you all understand Dutch. That's wonderful. What he meant, for those people that didn't understand Hoog-Hollands, what he meant was, how's it? Yeah, what we come to do is make a deep impression on your cheeks. So Harry, 100% Cape Townian, he says, "Nee, me. Waar vat julle ouens nou uit, me? Dis al so goed wat julle hier oorry, jong." But I'll translate that for you. Khoisan can be difficult. What he meant was, "No, bro. I actually don't know what you're on about, eh? But I'll tell you what, you guys got huge windsurfers, eh? The rest is history." Now I've brought the into it. Now I'm sure most of you here tonight have tried it before. So a couple of, okay, maybe not all of you, some of you. But this is my impression of Michael Schumacher after smoking electric spinach, getting really paranoid by the 40th lap, pulling into the pits. Could you please check it out? I think someone is following me, please. Well, you seem to be au fait with the effects, at least. Yeah. So, yes, I am a bit of a Dutchman. I met Nathaniel once in Potchefstroom nogal. And I had to ask him a couple of questions. One of the questions I had to ask him was what star sign he was. So I said, "Watter sterreteken is jy?" He said, "Ag, ek is sommer nie ster van Bethlehem." Now that allows me to tell the next joke, okay, because I was doing a gig in Meyersdal a while ago. Now that's sort of south, right? And there was a young guy in the audience with a baseball cap on. You know how they wear baseball caps at night in Alberton. And he had LA written on the baseball cap, LA baseball cap. And I asked him, I said, "What do you have to do with LA?" He said, "No, that means Lower Alberton." And then after the show, you know, sometimes people come to you after the show and they tell you the most amazing jokes. Sometimes they don't know you're a comedian. They go, "You're a comedian, tell me a joke." And then I go, "Bro, what do you do?" "No, I'm an accountant." "Well, balance this for me." You know, I made the mistake once with a kickboxer from Benoni, but that's a different story altogether. But this guy tells me this joke afterwards. He goes, "There was this oak always looking for cock. And one day he's doing the breakfast run on his Harley Davidson. And he's parking off there by something fishy there by Warmbach's. And he's looking for cock.
Suddenly, this huge oak pulls in a Harley Davidson. He's got this gorgeous blonde chick sitting behind him. He reckons this is the oak he's going to look for God with today. So he goes up to this oak, he tunes him. You have the ugliest chick I've ever seen. So the oak on the Harley Davidson tunes, sien jy? Is nie net ek wat so sien nie. Little boy comes home from school one day, he says to his dad, he said, Daddy, today I saved 2 rand. He says, what do you do? He says, I run behind the bus to school. He says, you're a stupid boy, man. You should run behind a taxi, save 15 rand. Hey? Right. So this guy walks into a hardware shop in Durban. It's called the Nike hardware shop. Just do it yourself. Are you watching my satellite? There seems to be a 30-second delay on this one. So the guy says to the guy behind the counter, he says, excuse me, sir, he says, could you recommend something for the exterior of my home? The guy says, yes, what do you need? Is plastic on wall. He says, don't you mean wall and all? He says, don't stereotype me, Lani. Hey. But that, you know, this stereotyping, you know. The fact is they do speak in a certain kind of way. Let me take you to Prakash Gokul. He's the karate instructor there by the Blue Lagoon in Durban. This is how you demonstrate self-defense. Okay. When the 4 gangsters approach you, you surround them. You hit them so hard. You apply the running kick slap to the head 4 times, 1 time. You hit them so hard, when they wake up, they close the old-fashioned. In Cape Town, it's like this, because that's Durban, right? Cape Town, self-defense lessons are like this. Okay, guy. If like you do feel threatened, just kind of blend in with your surroundings, okay? This Cape Townian goes to the army a couple of years ago. The corporal calls him over the one day, he says, Lento, why didn't I see you at camouflage training yesterday? Some clever jokes. Some clever jokes. Okay. Well, I don't know. It's going through my mind, and I know I should do it. Here we go. Ronald Reagan reading the newspaper. Nancy, I see Ronald Reagan has Alzheimer's. No, I'm just trying. I'm just feeling my way through it. Trying to do some black tie comedy up here. That's difficult. It is. But you guys have been fantastic so far, I must say. Maybe I should do something. I always thought, while I was studying, I thought I could become a commentator, or like, especially a horse racing commentator, or an auctioneer, or something like that. So here we go. I'm going to do my horse racing commentary for you. It's got a bit of everything. It goes like this. And away they go. Gatecrasher takes an early lead, followed by It's My Party and I'll Cry If I Want To. Right behind them is Affirmative Action and White Graduate still jostling for position. Zuma's tit swaying all over the track at the moment. Saddam Hussein tucked in behind bomb shelter with TRC kicking up dirt with ex-terrorists running free from the rest on the outside. Ranch lady opens up the gap for frustrated husband. George Michael coming up from the rear, ridden by Nathaniel, but it's US President who wins this one by a couple of bombs, I believe, a couple of nuclear weapons. It's like, what's happening between the Palestinians and the Israelis right now? I think they're all watching television going, what is Bush doing now? So I'm going to go straight to that part of the world. 2 Palestinians in the desert sleeping under an anti-aircraft gun, obviously. Suddenly one of them wakes up because in the distance he hears. So he swings the gun around and he starts firing.
The other guy wakes up, he says, "What you doing? Civilian plane, Concorde." He says, "With a nose like that, it must be Jewish." I'm back. I couldn't resist that one either. That's where I'm going now. But hopefully you've enjoyed it up to now. And Mr. Joe Pamensky, I really hope to be at the centenary celebration. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Have a good evening. Cheers.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Barry Richards, one of the finest cricketers ever to come from the shores of South Africa.
Ladies and gentlemen, and honoured guests, after the comedian, I feel I can say anything now. It's always difficult in a situation like this, being a Natal boy and not having played for Transvaal, therefore not having worked with Joe all that often. But our association goes back a long way. It's 1965, in fact, when I first started playing first-class cricket. Seems an age ago now. But even then, I always remember so many things about Joe, and probably being the first professional cricketer in South Africa, there was always bound to be a few hiccups between player and administrator. And I'm sorry if I refer to the years. I suppose they, in many ways, the lost years for us. You get the feeling sometimes that you couldn't play international cricket, and that was fair enough because we weren't doing the right thing. But now that we are, it's not an era that people want to remember. And somehow that reflects on players, but in many ways it reflects on administrators as well. And I think perhaps Joe was the biggest sufferer in the administration stakes as opposed to the playing stakes. Because I had the good fortune in 1970 to play a year in Australia. And that year happened to be in South Australia, where the legendary Don Bradman used to live. And I know what affection Don Bradman, who is perhaps the icon of world cricket, had for Joe. He was an administrator himself and therefore could realise the good in another administrator. And I don't think there's a higher accolade in the world than the one you could get from Don Bradman, not only as the player, but Don Bradman, the administrator. And Joe, I know that Don, in his time, had a great regard for you and the work that you did in regard to not just South African cricket, and that's where your heart has always been, but in world cricket. And it speaks volumes for you that he had such an affection for you. And every time that I happened to meet him, he always used to ask me, "How's Joe Pamensky going?" And I think when you have that feeling, that depth and that warmth for a person, you know that they are doing the right thing, not only by their country, but by their sport. For me, coming in as low as I am in the order tonight, number 11, I'll just play a few shots and then, as the comedian would say, piss off. But during those isolation years, I developed a friendship with Joe. It started off pretty rocky, really. In 1976, I can remember it very well, an occasion where the International Wanderers came out here under the same Richie Benno who's been mentioned tonight. And they had a world-class side. They were made up of English, New Zealand, Australians. There was everybody in there. And they had a red-hot side. But we only had one professional cricketer at that point in time, and that happened to be me. And I found out that they were getting 4 times the amount that we were getting. And when I tell you the amounts, you won't believe it. We were getting 1,500 rand for 4 test matches, and they were getting 6,000. And I was pretty grumpy about that, because I didn't mind Dennis Lilly trying to knock my head off in a game, because that's part and parcel. But when he's getting 4 times the amount, I wasn't happy about that at all. And I remember going to Joe and saying, "What can you do about this?" And he said, "Barry, you're a young man. Let me counsel you as an older man with more wisdom. We need to have these players here. We need to keep the game alive." And as it turned out, he was probably very right. Didn't convince me, but he probably was, in the long term, very right. And just talking about the same Dennis Lilly, he only made 1 trip to South Africa. Great bowler, probably the best I played against. You know, people always ask you who is the best bowler you ever faced, and that's always a difficult question, because there's so many conditions around the world that vary so much that it's what's good for one is not good for another in terms of fast and slow bowling. But I think if you were to pick a side to go all around the world to play, he would be one of the first picked. And it's just a little interesting sideline. I know it's Joe's night, but an interesting sideline about Dennis Lilly is that during the Packer era, which was quite a difficult time for Australian cricket, and Malcolm Speed's here tonight, and I'm sure he would remember this time, when there was, Kerry Packer was trying to get the television rights for Australian cricket, and the ACB had a long association with the Australian Broadcasting Commission. So they together had always televised cricket. Suddenly there was this businessman who wanted to put commercial cricket on with adverts in between. This was all brand new at the time, of course, the late 70s. So Packer said, well, if you guys don't want to sell it to me, I'll put on my own. And he bought 60 of the best cricketers in the world, and Clive Lloyd is here tonight. It was part and parcel, I think, of all of that. And away we went. We played this the first year. And it was sort of, there was an Australian team playing at the same time as we had our cricket on. So on the normal free-to-air broadcasting was the Australian team, and on Kerry Packer's Channel 9 was us for a year. And at the end of the year, it was sort of touch and go whether we were making any headway at all. And there was a young fellow called John Cornell who was the scriptwriter for Paul Hogan, and a lot of people wouldn't know this, but he was a very bright man, and obviously involved in the film industry, but also involved with Kerry Packer in Channel 9. And he was sitting with Dennis Lilly at the end of the year, and they're having a bit of a review. How do we revamp this World Series cricket? How do we give it a bit of a jump on the ordinary cricket? And John Cornell was thinking about this, and he thought, why don't we get, when everybody can get there, we play some night cricket? So he went to Dennis Lilly and he said, Dennis, why don't we play cricket at night? Dennis Lilly is a fast bowler, not a rocket scientist. And he said, because it's too fucking dark. Which to a fast bowler is a very logical answer. And John Cornell said, no, you idiot. He said, we'll put up lights. We'll put up lights and we'll play till 10 o'clock at night so people who are working can come and watch the game. Oh, says Dennis, very good idea. And they went and sold that to Kerry Packer. And that was the forerunner of what we have today, and which is very much part and parcel of the psyche of South African cricket today. And just talking about South African cricket today, and probably it's not an opportune moment to talk about South African cricket and where it went wrong. I mean, there's obviously a few problems that have to be sorted out. There's some challenges ahead for South African cricket. But one of the things that I do know, that if we have people of Joe Pamensky's calibre in the back room sorting out what needs to be done in terms of administration, we can't go far wrong. Whether there's enough is another thing. I've always felt that if there was a Pamensky King system as opposed to a Duckworth-Lewis, we wouldn't have been standing here asking why the South African side weren't in it. Joe, over the years, has set a standard for others to follow. He's always been the epitome of good manners. He's always been a role model for anybody who wanted to go into cricket administration. I happened to go that way and felt that if I could emulate Joe by 50% as opposed to his 100, I would have done a very, very good job. Joe, we all love you, we honour you, it's your night, and I hope you enjoy it immensely. Thank you very much.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Joe. Happy birthday to you.
Once upon a time there was a tavern where we used to raise a glass or two. Remember how we laughed away 'cause tonight I stood before the tavern. Nothing seemed the way it used to be. In the glass I saw a strange reflection. Was that lonely woman really me? Those were the days, my friend. We thought they'd never end. We'd sing and dance forever and a day. We'd live the life we'd choose. We'd fight and never lose. Those were the days. Oh yes, those were the days. Through the door there came familiar laughter. I saw your face and heard you call my name. Oh, my friend, we're older, but no wiser. For in our hearts the dreams are still the same. Those were the days, my friend. We thought they'd never end. We'd sing and dance forever and a day. We'd live the life we'd choose. We'd fight and never lose. Those were the days. Oh yes, those were the days.
Have a reward. You don't want to say? Okay. This is to certify that Joe Pamensky is the best cuddler in the whole wide world. With that,
the muzzle tov on this occasion. I'm sorry we can't be with you, but we would love to be there, and we just want to say muzzle tov. I wanted to say congratulations on your 50 years in cricket, and we're really proud of you. Love you.
I wanted to congratulate you on your award, and I'm sorry we can't be with you tonight. Me and my dad have been watching cricket and think of you whenever we watch it. Hi, Papa Joe. Mazel tov on your big award. Love you, Papa. I wish. Oh, I don't. Mazel tov on your award. Love Justin. Have a good time this evening and enjoy it.
Hi, Papa Joe. Mazel tov. Papa Joe, Mazel tov in 50 years of cricket. Enjoy your evening from your grandsons in San Diego.
3.
Enjoy your evening from your grandsons in San Diego.
And spit it out. I faced it all, and I stood tall, and did it my way. I've loved, I've laughed and cried, I've had my fill, my share of losing. And now, as tears subside, I find it all so amusing to think I did all that. And may I say, not in a shy way, oh no, not me. I did it my way. For what is a man? What has he got? If not himself, then he has not to say the things he truly feels, and not the words of one who kneels. The record shows I took the blows and did it
We're going to concentrate on our domestic cricket. We have much to do there. In any event, we believe that international cricket, as played by the other countries, has been over-proliferated.
And we would hope that that committee of ours that we've asked to address the issue would assist Borland to resolving the matter without them being too precipitous and too emotional at this particular time.
Yes, it was my way.
I'm not sure that I can rise to the challenge at this stage. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen and friends. Firstly, let me say how delighted I am to be part of such a prestigious evening, which honors not only cricket, but the remarkable contribution that South African cricket has made to the country over many years. And I must begin with both a proud and perhaps embarrassing confession. I've been part of it for the last 50. I'm sure that draws from some the thoughts of utter exhaustion. For me, the appropriate word is exhilaration. I suppose one of the key factors in growing old as an individual or as an entity is whether or not in that time you've grown up. And certainly that is true of South African cricket. To the point where we are hosting this magnificent international festival here, which has seen the mighty break cricketing bred with the minnows, and the world of sport is the richer for it. It's hard not to look back and perhaps gild the lily a little. I suppose what we see is either colored by time or blurred by the passing of time. This event is understandably an emotional occasion for me. Please forgive me if I do not do adequate justice to the occasion or the enormous effort that so many have put into organizing this very special tribute to me. I've been involved in cricket administration since my university days back in 1948. Whilst playing, I was also the secretary, the treasurer, and then the chairman of the Witwatersrand University Cricket Club. Little did I know at the time where that was to lead me. It was, of course, the era of the great Australian team, which they called the Invincibles. And I was in awe to read as a youngster about the immortality of Sir Donald Bradman in full cry. And there were others in that team who etched into my thinking the majesty and elegance that the game of cricket can be at its best. And yet, in a funny sort of way, that is one thing that has achieved permanence in the game. There are still people who bowl with magnificent rhythm, as if it were poetry in motion. There are still those who bat with elegance and execution, but perhaps not with the same level of proficiency as the immortal Bradman. I remember the famous statement by the distinguished Scottish writer C. Robertson Glasgow when he saw Bradman bat on one famous occasion and wrote, "Poetry and murder lived in him together." And so it is with great cricketers. There is a sense of poetry in the execution of the skill, and there's also a sense of sporting murder in the extent to which greatness tends to annihilate all in front of it. All of these things were certainly revealed to me when I began. It was a legacy that I was fortunate to inherit. I watched, I listened, and I learned. And history has proven that those whom I first read about and saw in the world of cricket in those years ago are now amongst some of the immortals of the game. When I became a member of the board of the Transvaal Cricket Union in 1953, and somehow or other my accountancy training seemed to pitchfork me into the task of treasurer for many years. During this period, I moved to the Pirates Cricket Club, where I continued to play and was involved in similar administrative activities as prevailed at Wits. In time, I was elected vice chairman of the Transvaal Cricket Union to the late Jack Cheetham. Now, there was a player, a great captain, and a person that lived by the principles he espoused. He then became an inspiring leader of South Africa's cricket administration, and one from whom I learned much. It was my view then, having served previously under a chairman, not Jack, that remained in office for over 15 years, that the position of chairmanship of the Transvaal Cricket Union was a position that shouldn't be held for longer than a 3-year term, as I was anxious to ensure that all board members who have aspirations for higher office could be suitably encouraged to serve the game with the knowledge that such aspirations could be realized within a reasonable time. From there, I became president and was further honored when I was invited to retain that position following the exciting unification process. Of course, the president of the Gauteng Cricket Board takes all the honors and privileges, whilst the chairman, Mr. Justice Mohammed Judgebhai, will testify, does all the work. And of course, in Gauteng, we boast proudly one of the magnificent cricket theatres in the world, and at which the World Cricket Final will be staged later this month. More importantly, I would hope that through cricket, we have managed to minister successfully to all the needs of the various racial groups, so that cricket continues to be an exemplar of contemporary South African society. It was during my term as chairman of the Transvaal Cricket Union that I initiated discussions with the officials of all Transvaal provincial cricketing bodies who administered the game to determine how we could secure appropriate benefit to the racial groups which were not white. At all times, these initiatives were met, I have to tell you, with a sense of mutual trust and commitment that still prevail today. In this context, the memory of the late Rashid Varachia and the warm and lasting friendship nurtured with him and his colleagues remain indelibly imprinted in my mind. It should be remembered that in December 1981, I assumed the presidency of the South African Cricket Union following the untimely death of Rashid whilst he held that position. Of course, there were significant political sensitivities at the time, and without revisiting the past, our efforts in cricket to promote a multiracial environment were not enthusiastically received by the government of the day. Indeed, the international world, as you now know, decided that we must be punished for our failure to treat all men and women equally and independently of colour and race, and South Africa was isolated from the international sporting community. These were difficult times. I wondered as an administrator, as did others, whether it wouldn't have a permanent and damaging effect on the calibre of our players and the quality of the cricket we were playing. After all, the spirit of competition which prevails here now in this magnificent World Championship has as its lasting legacy the capacity to advance the game in participation, in execution, and most importantly, in friendships made. These benefits were denied to us at that time, as we sought to maintain the standard of cricket by fostering our local competition. Sadly, the isolation removed from international cricket some of the greatest players the game has ever produced. It is invidious to name them, but you would expect me tonight on an occasion such as this to mention at least two, and I refer in particular to Graham Pollock, the Gauteng Cricket Board and South African Cricketer of the Century, and to our Barry Richards, who's here with us this evening, who's the only South African to earn a place in Bradman's World 11. But there were others of all colours. It is one of the sadnesses that I bring with me into 50 years of administration, that our isolation was to deny these people a place on the international stage and in the history books that their magnificence as cricketers deserved. But we are nothing if not resilient. And while administrators fought to change the system within our country, we also fought for wider recognition and reintroduction into the international cricket family beyond the confines of our country. And eventually we made it, and especially with the enormous assistance of our past Minister of Sport, the late Steve Twetty. It was a momentous occasion when we took to the field in 1992 against Australia in our first international encounter for 22 years at the magnificent Sydney Cricket Ground, and won that game. There, of course, was also that initial epoch-making tour in 1991 to India, and that first fixture at Eton Garden Stadium in Calcutta before a 96,000 crowd, a truly remarkable occasion. As I reflect over the past, the other significant change that was implemented was to bring the administration of the game to a level of professionalism that exists in other professions. We don't expect the National Association of Doctors or lawyers or even my own profession, the accountants, to be run by part-time employees. And we had to make that magnificent jump in the game of cricket. We couldn't go on prevailing only upon people to do things in their spare time. And so we in the old Transvaal Cricket Union invited Dr. Ali Bacher to be its first full-time professional executive manager, and thereby ushered in a world of professional administration as a forerunner to the world of full-time professional cricket players. It made sense and paid handsome dividends. In classrooms across the nation, young people are brilliant at maths, English, science, art, and music. And we train them so that they will become full-time mathematicians, university lecturers in literature, pioneering scientists, internationally acclaimed artists and musicians. We have to take the same view about our sports people. There must be an opportunity for them always to pursue their remarkable talent in athletic endeavor to the highest level, wherever it may be displayed around the world. As we know, Dr. Bacher's own substantial contribution to the professional administration of the game at national and international level is already legendary. We wish him every success in the future, following his pending retirement at the end of this very special World Cup event. I mentioned before Sir Donald Bradman. It doesn't need me to anoint him as the greatest player the game has ever seen. The statistics bear witness to that. But Bradman was a man more than a cricketer. He was a successful businessman, a thorough gentleman, a fine leader, a clear and uncluttered thinker, and above all else, a man of the highest personal and professional standards, who believed that only the best would do for those who sought to play the game and represent it in the public place. You can imagine my sense of honor that for me, the wheel had come full circle in my long-standing friendship with Sir Donald Bradman, when I was invited during his lifetime to become the South African patron of the Bradman Walk to Glory program. The cornerstone of the program is a magnificent oil painting of Sir Donald striding onto the Melbourne cricket ground in 1937 on his way to score a double century against England. It was recently voted the greatest test innings of all by Wisden. Now, in the midst of the 2003 Cricket World Cup, we hope to advance the cause of cricket in this country by being able to auction valuable items which bear the name of the game's all-time greatest player, Sir Donald Bradman. The money will be used to help establish turf cricket ovals in the previously disadvantaged areas, which will be known as the Bradman Ovals. And given the enduring friendship that Sir Donald Bradman enjoyed with so many South Africans and South African cricketers, it is appropriate that his name will be permanently perpetuated in this country and in cricket in this way. Indeed, it is hoped that the legacy of the World Cup will be 50 turf cricket ovals in previously disadvantaged areas. The money raised through the Bradman's Walk to Glory program will enable us here as administrators to help us meet this commitment. What I do want to say tonight, though, is how much I've appreciated the opportunities that have been given to me in this sport. I never strode to the wicket to represent my country and do it honor in some commanding innings. For me, the role was very much in the back room, hoping that I and colleagues of mine could create the environment in which cricket would prosper, the image of the game would be preserved, and the interests of our country would be beneficially advanced through sport. So many people have assisted me along the way that it is impossible to mention them, but I hope you know who you are. You have given me encouragement, wise counsel, invigoration when it was needed, and above all, enduring and unforgettable friendships. In particular, my wife Pam, who has been as much a cricket widow as any of the modern-day cricket players. But she too, together with my children, Martin, Beverly, and Kevin, who I'm so very pleased, are especially here with us this evening from San Diego in America and London. They have been totally supportive of the goals we set ourselves and the understanding of the difficult and demanding roads we had to walk in order to reach our destination. So very many close friends, family members, including my daughter-in-law Shelley from London, and so many cricketing officials from many parts of the world who are able to be here to share in the ICC Cricket World Cup 2003 celebrations, all contribute to ensuring that at this time my cup truly runneth over. Thank you all. And then, of course, the organizers of tonight's function, which through me appropriately honors cricket and so many people who in this country have contributed to its outstanding history. It is particularly satisfying too that so many business associates have taken time out to be here this evening to ensure the success of the function. My colleagues on the Gauteng Cricket Board, and especially the Chairman, Justice Mohammed Judgebai, who were responsible for launching this tribute, deserve my very special thanks, which I extend with utmost humility and gratitude. My friend and associate in so many ways, Mervyn Eldred King and Dr. Ali Bacha and Barry Richards have embarrassed me enormously this evening. Thank you, Mervyn. Thank you, Ali. Thank you, Barry, for not only expressing the sentiments that you did, but in the way that you did so. I guess after 50 years, it's time to think about moving on, but tonight is not a night to give too much weight to that inevitability. Let me just conclude by saying that through good times and bad times, and through a lot of tough times, many, many people in this country have made an indelible contribution to this game, its history, and the legacy we leave to others. We should never forget that no matter the role we play, we are at best bit players. But in the manuscript of cricket, written over many years in this country, each of us has something different and hopefully something special to remember. And these are the indelible moments that will nourish us in the years ahead. Friends, I do hope you've had an enjoyable evening. Thank you so very much for ensuring that I and my family have done so too.
Thank you, Joe. You can't get away that easy. You know that, don't you? Talk about 92 and coming back. I can well remember I was there. It was a very emotional time for me. I was living in Australia at the time. And can well remember Alan Donald running up the first ball, Jeff Marsh getting the hugest nick you've ever seen to the first ball of the game. Everybody went up. The spectators, the whole of the VIP room where I was standing, and they all stood up. The only bloke who didn't know was a Kiwi umpire who said not out. But my eternal memory from that game was when Kepler Wessels led the side out into the field. First time in 22 years that the South African side had been involved in a test match or an international game of any sort. And as I was looking across the field, Sydney Cricket Ground is a wonderful cricket ground, this banner unfolded from the top floor of the stands. And it just rolled down, huge thing. And it said, South Africa, unbeaten for 22 years. Joe, we've got a couple of gifts for you. Mohammed Jajbai has come up and kindly consented to come up. And please, would you come forward and collect them, please? One is a video of the night. And there's some other goodies for you too, Joe. Thank you.
If by chance I'd see you in the tavern, we'd smile at one another and we'd say, those were the days.
Dad, as your youngest son, we are very proud of you tonight. You've always taught me the importance of hard work and commitment. Your dedication to South African cricket throughout the years has made a marked difference. And that is why we have all gathered here to acknowledge your achievement. Dad, at home you've always been a pillar of strength, making sure we all are looked after. Your friends and business colleagues respect you for your integrity, honesty and business acumen. I only hope that I can follow your example in all aspects of my life. My family and I are delighted to have come from London to celebrate this special occasion with you.
Hi Dad, this is your daughter Beverly. I am so happy to be with you here this evening. I wouldn't have missed this for the world. Cricket was a religion in our house from when I was a little girl, and being the one and only girl in the family, I learned cricket from a very early age. We are so proud of you, and I am so happy to be with you, and we really treasure this memory, and thank you very much for letting us share this wonderful evening. Well done, Dad. You deserve everything you're getting this evening.
Hi, Dad. Standing at the Wanderers today brings back some special memories for me and for the family as well. We used to spend some fond occasions right here on the grass, watching every ball during all those great games that you were able to bring to us over those many years. Especially during those Rebel Tour days, you spent many hours making sure that cricket became a mainstay for all South Africans. Just from my side, my son Ricky, even though he's Canadian, has been following the sport, and just recently my daughter visited England and Kevin introduced her to the game of cricket at Lord's, and she is also an avid cricket fan as well. We are so blessed to have you. You're such a special person in our lives, and you bring us great joy and nachas, and we wish you all the best and mazel tov for this great occasion in your life.
Joe, from the time I met you, cricket has been a part of our lives. In fact, I think that's been your secret mistress all the time. I want to say that I love you very much and I'm very proud of you. Have a great evening, and I'm pleased all our children are here to be with us.
It was